This video film study about Mark Andrews is hopefully going to be an interesting video for you guys. It certainly was for me to try to research and put together, package together plays that followed a similar pattern. And here's why. There's some elements to Mark Andrews' play in 2022 that might be surprising. There's going to be some 2021 plays load up here and run through while I do a little intro. Look, we've been conditioned as Ravens fans by how many great plays Mark Andrews has made in his career to just kind of expect 8-9 catches for 104 and a touchdown every week, and you just don't get that. It's not realistic. I think the end production numbers last year in 2022, 73 catches, like 850 yards. It's been characterized as a down year by some people. But personally, I thought he played a handful of games far less than 100%. My estimate off the top of my head would be I thought I saw at least 3 games, maybe 4, where he was less than 100%. And in fact, I think he left at least one game early after trying to give it a go down in Tampa Bay. I think that was a big factor, to be honest with you, in terms of his final statistical contribution, was his health. And also the expanded usage of him as a blocker. It's not that he hadn't been used as a blocker, hardly at all in years past. I thought the ways that he was used as a blocker kind of expanded a little bit, kind of grew in 2022. And he was more efficient at it. He was more physical. I thought he played with better leverage as a blocker. And I intend to show you some significant film from 2022 that hopefully illustrates that point and makes it strong enough that you guys will either agree with me or at least recognize the fact that he was asked to do more than he was in previous seasons. Whether or not he was better at it is, I leave that up to you. I do think that his blocking performance improved across all levels. And I thought as the season went on, when he did kind of look more healthy, he was asked to do more. I'm going to show you a significant amount of film from the Steelers matchup in Week 17. And throughout the course of the season, look, as far as route runner, and it was a diverse route tree in some ways, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of typical Mark Andrews routes there, although this one certainly is not an outside release fade against a very, very talented strong safety in Jesse Bates in a wildcard playoff game. There were some over concepts, RPOs with him run out in the flats. Here, some China routes or whip routes as people call them. There were some in-breaking routes, and of course there were some choice routes where he's able to read the defense, read the coverage in combination with Lamar or Tyler Huntley, whoever's playing quarterback, and then adjust his route depending on the leverage or open area that's presented. I think the one thing that kind of struck me doing this film study was how good Mark Andrews was in defeating man coverage. Even in what was statistically a down year, he really proved to be a tough cover for safeties, linebackers, outside corners, everybody. As you see a couple of examples of his blocking, being pretty efficient and ending up on the correct leverage side. I love this play, load option. It's a difficult play to defend, and you're going to get the end zone angle of it. You'll see him outside release, go up to the linebacker, seal him off. Lamar ends up keeping it. They've really isolated Eli Apple, the corner, to the boundary. You can see Andrews just holding his outside leverage on the linebacker. Yeah, he's got some jersey in his hand. That's kind of typical of blocking out in space in the NFL or college. Really leads me to my next point. I think his expanded role as a blocker and his increased efficiency as a blocker is really illustrated in some of the film that's already shown, which was against the Bengals, and then the Steelers film, which I'm going to show at length and let run through at least twice while I read off some commentary. He was moved around a lot this year. You see him in a three-point stance here as we're letting this play come back from the wild card game. Three-point stance attached to the right tackle or the left tackle, which is, a typical tight end alignment, attached to the formation. Lined up as a slot wide receiver. Here he was lined up as a slot tight end. Still kind of attached to the tackle one by one off the right tackle, in this case Morgan Moses. A slot wide receiver with a normal alignment, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards away from the tackle, so further out than the previous 2 plays that I just showed you. Lined up as an outside receiver often in 2022. He did that some in 2021, don't get me wrong, but I thought he was even better in that role last year than he was in 2021. I know he had more catches in 2021, but to me he looked better as an outside receiver, lined up as the number one receiver, the guy closest to the sideline. He looked better in that role than I remembered him performing in 2021. And then you have his patented, perhaps most devastating alignment, where he's like 3 yards outside the right tackle, giving him a wide range of route options. You got his typical over route, out breaking route, any of the choice routes that are in the middle of the field. Sometimes he runs a sit route. Looking at that element, his versatility, as we so we're trying to highlight his blocking here. You got him blocking out in space for a bunch screen to Duve, who's excellent at finding extra yards along the sideline. He's just got a real knack for this, him being Duve. When you bring in an OBJ, a Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, along with hopefully healthy versions of Charlie Kolar and Rashad Bateman, I think it could make Andrews' efficiency skyrocket. And what I mean by that is we may not see as many 8 catches on 12 targets. We may see more 6 catches on 7 targets for him. We may see a consistent dose of that. And then occasionally get your 10 catch for 140 and 2 touchdowns that someone of his talent level, with Lamar throwing to him, and Lamar clearly trusts him, that's been well documented. I think his efficiency is going to skyrocket. And I'll go another step further. Whether the Ravens are in 11 personnel, 12 personnel, or 22 personnel, but I doubt they'll be in 22 personnel. I believe Pat Ricard is injured. I haven't seen him in any of the practice footage, and I've watched a lot of it, looking for specific things, trying to be a conspiracy theorist and look for particular formation tendencies, and just trying to determine where the play's initiated. I haven't seen Ricard dressed yet, but maybe I missed it. Look, 11 personnel, 12 personnel. Andrews' versatility, being able to go from a tight end and 3-point stance to a slot wide receiver to, man, God forbid, like for NFL defenses, lining up Andrews as the outside receiver, the widest guy, and then flipping OBJ or Bateman or somebody to the inside, really causing matchup problems for linebackers and safeties by inverting the players there. I just think there's tremendous potential to threaten the defense. Getting back to the film and my contention that health was a real serious issue for him in 2022, and I think that's pretty obvious, but I'll just try to hammer that point a little bit more. I thought after that Giants game, where I think he had 7 catches for like 108 and a touchdown, he didn't look completely healthy until later in the year to me. I saw some moments. There was a fumble in the Jacksonville game early. I just saw some moments that I didn't think were characteristic of him. But some of this blocking stuff, this is now the 3rd time this one's run through, so I'll kind of diagnose it somewhat a little bit. You got an outside run play. It's spot shadowed, so forgive the dark screen. Outside run play where they're leading with Mike Davis out to the edge, so they're just pinning, and he's pinning a linebacker here. This isn't a nickel safety. This isn't a DB. This is a linebacker. I mean, Andrews 6'5", 255, 258, somewhere in that area. That's a 3rd down. Huge conversion. Now, this is a nickel defender, but Andrews can't move pre-snap. He's on the line of scrimmage. Look at his left foot. It's relatively even with the 14-yard line. He can't move. As this nickel defender, he can move. The nickel defender can move pre-snap. He can do anything he wants. He could jump up and down if he wanted to. He's moving. Andrews takes a great step here to get down, pin this guy. Now he's got his left arm in front of him, so is there a little bit of a hold element there? Go right ahead. But he's just a lot smarter, I think, this year at not holding for very long when his hand does appear to be in a position to hold. And again, load option here. You're getting Ricard leading out, the back getting in pitch relationship for Lamar, and then they're leaving this corner unblocked. They've manipulated the Bengals into playing 3 over 2 to twins because the nickel defender's lined up over the number 2 receiver. So they're basically +1, they being the Ravens, with this fullback loading out, and then Andrews releasing outside to go get the front side inside linebacker. Letting Eli Apple choose, and he can't choose correctly because there's 2 players. Ricard can't get out in front of the play because Eli Apple got hands on him. Still ends up being, I think, a 12-yard gain for Lamar. You're going to get the end zone angle last time you see it. They used Andrews as a blocker in key games. This one, the wild card game, the Steelers game that we're going to see a lot of film of here in a moment. I want to show extended film of that game, Week 17. Look, clearly a disappointing loss for the Ravens, but I thought this game really illustrated Andrews' versatility And kind of, I think we can kind of use this to project forward what he's going to be able to do at times to block for the other talent that's going to be out there. Clearly, he showed he can have an impact across multiple levels. We're going to let the plays run. I think you've got examples here of him beating man coverage, like you just saw for a short game. Finding open space against zone, beating man coverage again. Him and Isaiah Likely are great at that route. Likely kind of tends to do like the Reggie White club or SWAT to get open. Andrews a little more smooth with it. They certainly utilize Andrews to get teammates open, like you see on this route right here to get Demarcus Robinson open on a 3rd and long, which they convert. Executes a really nice block against TJ Watt. Really doesn't block TJ Watt. He dekes him or jukes him, and then the kick out comes and they run up underneath Watt. And just so you know, man, TJ Watt's one of them guys, he can bend around kick out blocks sometimes, but because of Andrews' deke or juke there, Watt wasn't able to do so. He's able to sit and find the soft spots in zone. You see the pump fake by Tyler Huntley, and then finding Andrews wide open along the sideline. I thought this game really showed you the versatility that he has, and he looked super healthy to me. Looking forward to 2023, I think it shows how he can get people open, make plays in a crunch time. Now that this drive here, unfortunately, when the Ravens were down 3, didn't result in a touchdown or didn't result in a score. But as it is, he's always looking to get open, always looking to keep working. Now, Mark Andrews has always done that. But what I really liked about his film from 2022, and in this Steelers game in particular, and this is why I'm showing this game, is that he stayed on his blocks longer. And what I mean is, with the same in 2022, he stayed on his blocks longer. The same tenacity that he shows when the quarterback extends the play, attempting to get open, that same tenacity, to me, he showed that on plays where he was asked to block in 2022. And I thought he showed it consistently. Was it 100% of the plays? Of course not. But I felt like these plays, I feel like the plays I'm showing you against the Bengals and the Steelers represent what I think was his commitment level in 2022 to blocking. And without naming players, now granted he's a tight end, but without naming players, there's certainly not a lot of wide receivers who show just enough effort on particular run scheme plays to not get taken out of the game when they're asked to block. Mark Andrews was not one of those guys in 2022. I didn't have him losing a whole lot of reps, even though he was lined up all over the place, including wide receiver. I thought his blocking in space improved dramatically, but across all alignments. And I think that's going to be important for 2023 because, and now, let me digress just for a second. The whole Greg Roman situation, talk about that now, in July of 2023 if we wish. But I think it's a positive how Andrews was developed, and then how he was used last year in 2022. What I mean by that is it's a positive moving forward. Granted, 2021, he had 107 catches, 9 touchdowns, unbelievable production, right? He basically played the final 5 games of 2021 without Lamar Jackson, and he was just a force of nature. If you remember, there was no Gus Edwards, no J.K. Dobbins in 2021, no Lamar Jackson for the final 5 games. And all Andrews does in 5 games, 43 catches on 55 targets, which is 78% completion percentage. And he scores 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games, 550 receiving yards during that time. That's amazing. That's video game numbers. Then the following season, 2022, the one we're focusing on here, he improves as a blocker. If you trust the video that I'm showing you and you believe my evaluation, he improves as a blocker everywhere, as a wide receiver in space, as a traditional tight end stance, 3-point stance. The only thing he wasn't used on, and where I think Todd Monken's offense will be very interesting, is this. If Ricard is not going to be as big a part of the offense, which of the tight ends, Andrews, Likely, or Kolar, is going to be used on split zone concepts, where the tight end lines up one by one off the tackle or back in the backfield slightly, and then goes across the heels of the offensive lineman post-snap after the ball is snapped and either kicks out a D-end outside linebacker on a run concept or slips out into the flats. That's the only concept I didn't really see Andrews used on, the only thing that would add to the versatility and unpredictability of Todd Monken's offense in 2023. Look, with all the additions the Ravens have made, OBJ, Flowers, Aguilar, Charlie Kolar, and Charlie Kolar being there from day one, there's just so much talent now to add to Andrews, Bateman, Duve, Likely, and then not even talking about Gus Edwards and J.K. and then the king of all kings is Lamar Jackson. There's so much talent there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Todd Monken not just utilizes Andrews, but how he tries to incorporate all these guys. From what I saw at Georgia, I thought Todd Monken looked like the type of offensive coordinator that said, if you don't block, you don't play, or we don't play as much. And Andrews in 2022 stepped up his game considerably. The 73 catches and only 5 touchdowns doesn't concern me at all. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if in 2023 he only ends up with 75 or 80 catches, because I think the ball's going to be spread around as well it should be. With all of the talent that's there, all the talent they brought in the offseason, I'm excited to see Mark Andrews out there healthy, hopefully, number one. Number two, be a guy who gets some favorable matchups every now and then, whereas maybe in the past, before he was the focal point of the defense, depending on the coverage and down and distance. You guys let me know what you think of some of the thoughts that I threw out there, referencing Andrews' monster finish to the 2021 season. I think we all would have expected another 100 catches, another 10 touchdowns. We didn't get that. I still think he had a great year, given the injuries, given some of the games I think he played in where he wasn't 100%, and the way he improved blocking at the same time. To use an NBA comparison, I feel like Mark Andrews is a guy who played on a bad team for a while in the NBA. Granted, the Ravens were not a bad team the last couple of years, but we had injury problems that certainly limited the team's playoff aspirations. Let's put it that way. He reminds me of an NBA player who was on a bad team for 2 or 3 years and was the guy, 28 points, 10 rebounds a game, and then goes to a real serious contender, and now he can settle in and get 22 and 9 per game and turn up the volume when he needs to. Mark Andrews, to me, is still one of the best players in the league offensively as a tight end, hybrid wide receiver. His blocking expanded his role last year. I was super impressed by it. You may not be, and that's okay. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. You may be disappointed in his output production-wise. 73 catches, 5 touchdowns in 2022. I thought it was pretty clear that he was limited by injury, among other things. So appreciate you guys' time. This is part of a tight end live stream that I'm going to put together for Saturday morning about Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar, and how I think Todd Monken can utilize them and keep this offense rolling as it starts in 2023. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other people would enjoy this content, enjoy my commentary film study about Mark Andrews, please consider sharing a link to this video out on social media to help the video get more reach.